KFIZ News Time, 8:10. It's Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Call in with your questions, 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Phone lines are open. You can also email in your questions, kfizstudio@gmail.com, as we welcome in Ron Rademann from Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Also, Master Gardener Carol is in studio this morning. And are we live on YouTube or not? I don't think we're live on YouTube yet. I know that you've been recording these shows and putting the video out. If people want to find you, that's what we want to push here this morning. Go to YouTube and search Landscape Smart and click that subscribe button, because then you're going to get notifications of when you guys upload. And apparently YouTube is, the YouTube police say you need 50 subscribers to the site to be able to broadcast live, and you're almost there. So let's get them there yet today. Go to Landscape Smart on YouTube. Sure, go ahead, Carol.
But there's a number after it, isn't it? Like 24 or something?
I'm looking at it right now, and
No?
I don't see any sort of number. I see at Landscape Smart is what...
Oh, we don't even need the 24 anymore.
That's the one I'm looking at, as long as I'm looking at the right one. I think that's you, Ron, right?
Oh, yeah, that's...
Pretty handsome-looking guy, right?
Yeah.
He is made for TV. I'm not. I'm a radio guy, so it's like, where I came in here, where's the hair and makeup crew? Now that we got all these cameras, I got my Cubs hat on, and Ron joked that he should have been wearing some Brewers stuff to balance me out.
Yeah, I could have put my Brewers shirt on, and then at least we'd be 50-50 here in Wisconsin. So
I have a Brewers shirt, too.
Uh-oh.
Do that sometime.
And
Yes.
I would have been outnumbered.
Yes.
I would have been outnumbered.
Well, I don't know. I guess we had enough rain in our area here.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that we always like to point out is, because we do have a little people that are outside Fond du Lac County now listening or watching, whatever. When we talk about things here on Saturday morning, we're semi local, I guess, although it pretty much, and when you have these, some days, some periods, you have scattered thunderstorms. What's going on here now, the last couple weeks in Wisconsin isn't really scattered. It's pretty much hitting everywhere, including, so there's no fire dangers and things like that out there, especially in Wisconsin. So go ahead and have fun, I guess. And, and Carol mentioned earlier, too, off the air, are we going to, what's the deal on funguses and things like that? And, really by the time if you're spraying now for fungus, it's almost too late. You really would have had to been doing it already, starting back around Memorial Day weekend. Now, with that being said, you can still get another one or two applications in if you hurry. It would have been better in this case to have a couple applications in already and then be working on the third one, on 4th of July weekend, and then you'd be pretty well done for the season. So if you haven't done any applications on fungicides, boy, you better get to it in a hurry. And that, and as far as that, it doesn't really matter if you get 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches of rain. We've just been in a wet period for the last 3-4 weeks already now. And it's going to, it's kind of set to continue. And we're not really, the high temperatures over the next 10 days or so here in the Fond du Lac area there's a lot more 70s than 80s even forecast, let alone 90s. And typically when you get into the end of June and early part of July, we're facing almost all 80s and 90s. And with the temperatures forecast here for the next 10 days now, there's more highs they're upper 70s, 78, 76, 79, but and then if it does hit 80, it's more 81, 82, 83. So it's kind of, cooler temperatures actually for this time of year.
Which will be splendid, including the whole issue with the fungus and that was going to be more likely to come if we're really humid for the next 2-3 weeks. Then I think things could set in. It's something to watch for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing we kind of always talk about in watering is, I always say, well, rain doesn't really do any good. You have to still give them a good deep soaking. But when it rains 4 or 5 or 6 out of 7 days, then that kind of constitutes a watering. So you don't really need, if you planted anything last year or this year, you're good for the next 10 days or so now with it, like we said, at least here in most of Wisconsin, that's for sure. So,
and by watering, you're talking more about the new trees and things like that, as opposed to just a general garden watering, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well, a lot of times, if we're getting a little rain shower here and there, the grass is green, but it's dry down deep. Mm-hmm. So if you planted a tree last year or earlier this year, the top 2, 3, 4 inches is wet, which is why the grass are wet enough, and that's why your grass is green. But that's about where the roots start on most trees is 4 or 5 or 6 inches down. So if you're not watering down there, you're not really watering sufficiently. So, and like last year it was even a little bit interesting because I was in Oshkosh, and we had been getting kind of these rains like we had here where you didn't really need to supplement watering. Then I went up to Oshkosh, and they hadn't really had the rains, and just 20 miles away, and I was visiting friends up there actually, and I said, boy, you're not getting it's a whole different climate here in on the south side of Oshkosh. They were near the country club or the golf course, which is only, I don't know if it's even 15 miles here from the studio,
Right.
Right.
And I said, boy, you better get out and do some watering here. And because the grass again was green, but I could tell that it wasn't like it was around here. So, just even, locally it can be variable. Although these storms that we got the last couple of days, there's nothing variable about them.
Everybody's getting rain.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's getting rain. We've got our first caller of the show, so let's go to the phones. Good morning. You are on Landscape Smart with Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Carol. What's your question?
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
To hear you. Yeah. I was wondering, this winter when we got that real heavy snow, it really broke off a couple of branches on our big spruce trees. And they're just hanging there. And I didn't want to do any cutting because I think Ron said you should wait. I was wondering if it's okay to do it now.
Well, and everything always has an asterisk behind it. And typically, yes, we do like to wait until about July 1st to do trimming of evergreens. So, but when there's storm damage, then you can trim out of season, so to speak, to get that problem resolved. Oh, yeah. So, are the branches bent, or did they turn brown? Are they cracked and broken?
Some actually broke and they're hanging. They're you can tell they're drying out. Mm-hmm. And one branch is bent down. It's almost touching the lawn, but it didn't break off. It's still green, but you can tell it's really bad. It doesn't have any strength to pull back up.
Well, what I would do in a case like that is saw off the branches that are broken and drying up, because they're not going to get any better. And the quicker they can start to heal, the better there. And you could even, on the branch that's kind of hanging low, there's a couple little tricks you could try there without taking it off. You could kind of thin it out a little bit. Just take like some of the, off some of the side branches of the branch, side shoots of the branch, and that might take some of the weight off and just help it lift up. The other thing you could do is tie that branch up. Take some, like, sisal is always better than plastic. So, like binder twine, so to speak, and then just loop it.
Excuse me. These trees are I'm going to say 30 to 40 years old.
So they're
And the branch is about 10 to 12 feet long.
uh-huh.
And it's bent, I would say, the closest part to the tree where it bent, it's out about maybe 3 feet. And it's a pretty big bend. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Still,
Yeah,
I still think you could tie that up.
yeah, you could probably still tie it up. I would maybe in that, because once you take a branch out, it's gone pretty much forever. It will fill back in as as the tree grows and light gets back in there. So, I would try not to, or like I said, kind of thin it out a little bit, take off some of the weight, because a lot of times just the weight of the new growth, that would help take some pressure off of it.
Yeah, it's about 10 feet up off the ground.
Oh,
I'd have to use a rope, not a tire.
uh-huh. Yeah, and you could do that too. You could just get some light, like cord, would be okay. Just don't use plastic, because plastic lasts forever. And
Oh, okay.
and if you tie it up with plastic, then as the tree grows, it could cut into it, and the branch would die then, because it would get choked off. So never use plastic.
I'm looking at it right now, and I noticed that the needles were a little brown, but now they're really starting to turn.
Uh-huh.
So the branch, it might be dead, but I planned on cutting it off because it's pretty unsightly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then it might be better to take it out, like you said. If it's not, because you'd be seeing, the sap would be flowing into it. You'd be seeing some new growth. But as we all know, a Christmas tree can live for a couple months without roots attached or without any nutrients. So, it takes a little, when you cut one off at a Christmas tree farm in October, it still looks pretty good in November, December, and even into January. So they can they can look green for a long time before they're actually dead. So yeah, if you're not seeing new growth on it, then that branch is going to die also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it didn't get the needle length as the candles on the rest of the tree were real nice and long, and this is like stunted. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your information. I appreciate the show.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Yeah, there was a lot of damage, we had those 2 heavy wet snows here in Fond du Lac County. Mm-hmm. One they were a little bit back to back. I don't remember the dates anymore now, but it was like one in February, which kind of stretched some of the branches out on evergreens. And then we had another one that followed up about 3 weeks later, and that took some of those branches that were kind of stretched outward, and it broke them right off. And so a lot of times your plants can handle one event like that, and they would have. There wasn't much damage on that first one, but because they were stretched out, then the second one kind of finished off some of those branches. So there was a lot of, I had a lot of calls in the aftermath of that second storm, just getting, again, people wanted advice. They didn't really know what to do. And, every situation was a little bit different too. So, but, yeah, those, and we hadn't really had a bad winter storm like that for a couple years. So,
'tis true.
Phone lines are open, 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. You were going to say something, Ron?
Yeah, I was just going to say Rademann's is actually open today, too. We didn't really mention that earlier. We got going on the YouTube part of it here before we got going with the Rademann part. So, but yeah, Rademann's is open today. I don't know if you can still get a delivery. I wouldn't really advise ordering shredded black dirt this morning. You might want to wait a couple days on that. We do keep it inside, so it'll be dry when we load it, but I don't know if it'll stay dry as we deliver it. So, but you could still order bark mulch or decorative stone, whatever else you want to tackle here this coming week.
Or come see what's new, right?
Or come see what's new.
There you go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are going to take our first break. When we come back from that, I know that we will have an email to answer in regards to lilies. Someone sent in a question regarding lilies.
So, yeah, Rademann's open today until noon and Monday through Friday till 4:30. And the easiest way to get to Rademann's is to hop on Highway 41 because about 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, 5 miles north of Lemire, you just get off at County Trunk B, that's B as in boy, and head east, and we're right there at the crest of the hill.
KFIZ News Time, 8:28. Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Carol in studio to answer your lawn, garden, and landscaping questions. You call in now, you'll get through 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. I mentioned you can also email the program, kfizstudio@gmail.com, and we'll come out of the break. Brian sent in a question about lilies, and specifically, will continued harvest of the blooms help the longevity of the blooms?
I don't know that would make much difference.
I don't think it makes any difference either if you cut them off. It saves a lot of strain. There's not all that seed making and all that other stuff that happens with the flowers when they're dead, when they go away. I don't think it should make any difference. I can't think of any reason why it would, whether you use them for flowers inside or let them outside. At some point, you have to take them off when they're, going away anyway, in order for it to look good. I mean, there's no other reason to take them off, but I don't think it makes any difference.
It might help the vitality of the plant a little bit if you would take them out earlier.
When they're past their prime.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I think he's talking about taking them out just to, like take a bouquet in the house or something.
And then hoping that he's going to get more flowers.
Right.
But I don't think that would help. I don't think you'd get more, they would regenerate more flowering just by taking the others out. No.
I don't think so either. It seems they come up with just so many stalks and then their time's done. Mm-hmm. Although they do last a long time, which is what makes them so really lovely. Yes.
Well, and there's so many different varieties
yes.
too. Now, when he says lilies, in my mind I was thinking daylilies, but
I would guess that's probably what he's talking about. But there's a lot of different kinds of lilies.
Tiger lilies.
Yes. Yeah, the ditch lilies. We always have the ditch lilies around here. Yes. I really don't think it'll make any difference whether you take them off and take them in or let them out there. Just don't let them out long past their prime. Well, and I guess that wouldn't even harm that much either. It's just that they don't look so great if you let them hang there. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know of any other reason. He did say too. How was it worded?
Let me check that again here quickly. Brian said, will continued harvest of the blooms help the longevity of the blooms?
Oh, I think they're going, if you leave them out on the plant, they're going to be there longer than
if you cut them.
Than if you cut them and bring them in, just because they lose their, from the water. Eventually they, give up the ghost. But a lot of lilies only last one day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next one on the stem gets, out. So they don't last a long time individually, but usually there's a whole bunch on one stem, not the daylilies necessarily, the ones that are in the ditch and that don't, but they still have a cluster. So if you pick that cluster and bring it in and just the one is open, the rest are probably not going to open. So if he's more talking about longevity inside, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you might end up with less flowers by removing them rather than more.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
maybe we can clarify that a little more with somebody else. I don't know.
Well, thanks for the email, Brian.
Yes.
You can email in kfizstudio@gmail.com. Our phone lines are wide open, so if you call in now, you'll get on the air and get to ask your question. 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450.
When you kind of go back to a little bit to that same question, but if you do like spireas, for example, once they're finishing, well, they're flowering out right now. And, I was actually talking to some people yesterday about them. And I said, well, just wait another week or so now. These flowers will have, and they've been flowering for about a week. And so if you wait another week, about 90% of the flowers will be dried up. And then go ahead and shear those off, snip those off. Then you'll get some more new growth, and then you'll get a second batch of flowering on the spirea. And this year, with everything kind of flowering out a couple weeks earlier than normal, that gives you a better opportunity to get a second flowering. And who knows, you could even get a third batch of flowers off of spireas this year. If you can get the first ones cut now and the second ones cut already, come August, you might get some flowers out of those again, even in September. So
how far back do you cut them off? Just a couple of inches?
Yeah, just 2 or 3 inches, just enough to promote some more new growth. And then you'll get some more new growth and some more flowers. So that would be, one way to get more flowers is to cut them. And that kind of holds true on some other things too, but most of your hydrangeas, they're going to flower out and continue to flower and grow. It doesn't really matter if you cut the flowers off or not. But some of these, if they're flowering right now, it probably wouldn't hurt there too to, once those flowers dry up on hydrangeas, cut those dead ones out too, and you'll get some more, kind of like you do on roses.
Right.
You trim the dead spent flowers off, and then you'll get more flowers growing back.
Right. Well, I think of that with roses, but I never think of it with my spirea. I just let them go, and that's true. You could get more. Mine also need lots of work down at the ground level. That's right. I need to be trimming out, but that's a whole different story. Yes, yes.
We get another caller. Good morning. You are on Landscape Smart with Ron and Carol. What's your question?
My question is, should asparagus be cut down in the fall, or should it be left until spring to cut down?
Don't cut it down early in the fall. Let it stay there until it's dried out. And then you can cut it off or not cut it off. Depends on if you want it to keep some snow there to cover up the roots, which they're so deep it really doesn't probably matter about that either. So then once it's dried out completely, that's a preference for you. If you want to cut it off in the fall, you can. If you want to cut it in spring. Actually, in spring, you don't even need to really cut it. You just give it a little tug and it pulls out of the ground. So either way works.
It'll be like yellow in the fall when it turns yellow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
It's always nice when it doesn't matter either way.
It doesn't matter either way. No.
Makes it easier, right?
Right. Then you can do, personal preference. It's probably more if it's like real visible. It might look better if it's clean, if you have it in your side of your front yard or something like that, rather than in the far back corner of your yard where it doesn't matter so much. So,
I usually let mine just because it keeps a little snow there, and I'm worried it might freeze out. But I've never heard of asparagus freezing out. In honesty,
No.
And let's go back to the phones. Good morning. You are on Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. What's your question for Ron and Carol?
Good morning. Yes, so I have a mature hickory shaggy bark tree, and it has developed brown leaves, and they're dropping. I mean, there's still quite a few green ones on there, but they, I noticed when I was mowing this week that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of brown leaves that I'm mowing over that have fallen.
Yeah, and actually, I had another person call me earlier this week on the same thing, and we're kind of just seeing that right now, and I don't think it's really anything to worry about. What they're just, it's kind of almost, and it's like the ones I've seen are pretty. It's actually pretty. It's substantial, although when you look at typically most trees, it seems more substantial than what it really is, because there's, a million leaves up there and there's several hundred on the ground, and you think, oh boy, my tree is dying. So, I don't think there's anything to do or anything to worry about.
Do you think it's just the big winds we've had? breaking some off, although they are tough trees. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not really sure. I didn't really look at them close enough to see if there's like a fungus on the leaf or if there's insect. It wasn't really enough of a problem to that I thought, in my opinion, that you'd want to be thinking about spraying it or doing anything like that with it. So maybe we'll just kind of wait it out, see if we get next Saturday, listen in again, and we'll see once, some of these things, if you just kind of let them go, and some things you can't let go, you have to jump on them quick. But for the most part, on this, I don't think there's anything to really worry about quite yet. So, but yeah, we'll talk about it again next Saturday because it will have either gotten better or gotten worse.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. I'll just hang tight.
Okay.
Yeah, and for the most part, when people have hickories, they're 40, 50, 60 feet tall, so it's not really easy to spray them anyway, unless you happen to have a smaller one, or a younger one, let's just say. So for right now, I don't think there's anything to do or anything to worry about, but I'm going to check into it a little bit more here as this week goes on and see once what really caused it, because I really didn't get a chance to research it out yet. The call I got on it was just like day before yesterday, so haven't been outside that much the last couple days to really to figure it out. So
maybe you'll get more calls.
But yeah, I do need to figure it out. But I was noticing it too when the first call I got. Then I thought, well, I wonder. Usually, if you have a problem, instead of me going to look at your problem, I usually go look at and see once what's going on with our trees, in the woods, in the nursery, in the landscape, the neighbor's yard, or anything like that, because that way you can kind of see, is this a local problem? Is it an isolated problem? And if I'm seeing the same thing, in my yard at home as you're seeing 20 miles away, well, then there isn't really too much. At least I know what the problem is. So, and how to address it. But, most of these, if you're, by the time the leaves are dropping because of a fungus problem, it's already too late. Again, we should have been spraying, a month ago and a week ago instead of now. By the time the leaves are dropping, well, the fungus is there. There's nothing really to do anymore. You've kind of missed your opportunity. So you got to just kind of live with it then. And trees, it's early enough in the season. So if they lose some leaves here already in early mid-June, they'll regrow. They have plenty of time to regrow. It's more of a problem if they start losing their leaves already in August, and then the trees are confused, and then they start to regrow already in September, when they're supposed to be shutting down in September and October, and now they're starting to grow in September. So a lot of these problems that we're seeing here, even if it is an insect problem or a disease problem or a fungus problem or some type of blight, which is kind of slang for fungus, then, it's, like I said, it's really too late, but it's early enough in the season where you don't really have to worry about it. So, because the trees, they'll get a second regrowth on them here during June and July, especially if the temperatures stay moderate. And that's, again, when they're calling for temperatures in the 70s, that's fine. If it was going to be, the next couple of weeks into the 90s, then trees are a little, they aren't going to start regrowing then, but it's almost spring-like conditions here yet right now with all the moisture we're getting. Yes,
that's true.
And together with, the cooler, we're getting more May and June temperatures here right now than July. So
I'm okay with that.
You and me both.
So
let's take our next break. When we come back from that, along with calls, I know Kathy just sent in an email asking about a hanging tomato plant. So we'll get to that right after the break.
So, yeah, Rademann's open today. You can still get a delivery if you are so inclined here for this morning. Otherwise, Monday through Friday till 4:30, today until noon. Or give us a call, 920-922-7612. And, I'm going to actually be out at Rademann's later this morning, too. So if you want to see, keep there.
Yeah. Signing autographs.
KFIZ News Time, 8:45, 15 minutes left. And Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Call in now. You'll get on the air for your opportunity to ask a question. Ron and Carol, 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. We also take your emails, and that's where we're going to go coming out of the break. Kathy sent in an email about a hanging tomato plant. And I just put somebody on hold. So hang on there. We'll get to you after we discuss this email here. So Kathy's question regarding the hanging tomato plant. I have a hanging tomato plant that the leaves are spotted, drying up. I only water under the plant, under the leaves, when watering is needed. I've used a homemade mixture, fungicide mixture. I've removed some leaves, wondering what else should I do to stop this?
It looks like it's sitting on something. It's hard to tell from the picture what it's like, but it's.
You can see, obviously, there's some sort of a pot there, and then I think it's just barely hanging above this piece of concrete or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from the picture, you'd think you'd have less of a problem with fungus because it isn't hanging on the ground or growing low. You're getting good air circulation. One thing I would say, it's hard to tell here, but hopefully it's out in full sun because that would definitely make a big difference. And the watering, again, when we're getting as much rain, at least locally, I'm assuming, this is in our area here. And, over the last 3 weeks, it's just been raining so much that it's pretty hard to keep the foliage dry when it's raining that much. So maybe you just need to,
back off on your watering a little bit, especially if the rain's going in there.
Well, and it's a smaller pot, so it would dry out pretty quick if the rain isn't hitting it. But yeah, that's.
And being in a pot, they always say that you get the black end rot thing because of the variety in watering. So I don't know, but they do naturally, some of those bottom leaves that aren't going to produce anything really, they do turn yellow and come off sometimes, especially if you're letting it climb up a trellis or something. That bottom part, usually those leaves give way at some time of the season anyway.
Would it benefit? It looks like it's got a lot of full, dense foliage. Would it benefit it, Carol, if it was kind of thin it out a little bit and clean out some of those tiny, snip out some of those inside branches, stems on there to open it up a little bit, get a little more air?
I think that could help a lot because I'm thinking, there might be some fungus, inside of that just from the density of it. It looks like it has tomatoes on it up there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is just amazing. So she must have started with a really big tomato plant to begin with. I think if some are turning yellow, just pick them out of there. Take some of the others out too. I think it just, like Ron mentioned, needs to breathe a little more. With a pot that size and that big a tomato, I would guess that it's being watered every day. And maybe you need to back off on that to every other day or something too, just because that could help.
Yeah, I would say try not to water it maybe as often as what that would help. And if you open that up a little bit, and make sure it's in full sun. So
I agree. I think the only reason those leaves are turning yellow is because there's just not enough room for them in there to
Too much.
to grow. Right.
Yeah. They're shading each other out.
Right. So pick them off. I don't think it's going to harm your tomato. It looks pretty vibrant to me. Yes.
Maybe you get more new growth then too. Promote some more new growth. You probably do need to, fertilize it. Being in a smaller pot, you're going to have to fertilize it a little more often. So more of a balanced 20-20-20 liquid, mix it in your sprinkling can type of watering.
More so than putting more of the fungus. Didn't she say she put something on it for fungus?
Yeah,
Put it in
homemade mixture,
yeah.
fungicide mixture.
Yeah, you do a fungus application like once a week, but you don't do it necessarily day after day to put that out there. That might be something that's causing some issues if you're doing it daily. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the email, Kathy. And let's go to the phones. Thanks for hanging on the line. You're on with Ron and Carol. What's your question?
I don't have a question, but I was listening to this lady about the hickory trees.
Yeah.
Well, I live on the north side of a woods. I have a lot of hickory trees and a bur oak. But I have noticed I've been living here for 62 years, but every other year I get to pick a lot of hickory nuts. But last year I didn't have any. And I'm sure this year I'm going to have more than what anybody, if they want to come out here and pick them, they can. So if you're worried about it, I would not worry about it all. Let Mother Nature take its course.
Good advice. That's always good advice.
Yeah, that's a good point. And hickories are a tough, deep-rooted, native tree. So you don't have to worry about those. Don't have to worry about them too much. But the only thing that hurts them is new construction, from what I can see.
Well, I tried to transplant one year, and oh my God, I think we dug 6 feet deep, and we still weren't to the bottom of the root.
Yes.
And that was a tree that was maybe about 6-7 feet tall.
Yeah.
So,
they have a huge taproot, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you see a hickory tree that's 4 feet, just growing out like 4 foot, the root's probably down 6 feet, even
That's
at
what she
4.
said, yeah.
So it's one if not the most difficult trees to transplant. So if you want a hickory tree, a lot of times it's best just to plant a hickory nut.
Correct. And my problem this year is I always have a nice big garden, and with all the rain, I won't even be able to plant a garden. I always planted a lot of red Pontiacs and, just all the different varieties of potatoes. But this year, with all the rain, I won't even have any.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I think you could still plant some when it dries out here. You might have to water them by that time, but I don't know if you
I
can
won't
plant
have
them
to
anytime.
water because I have planted potatoes one year, and my husband was still living here yet, and we dug all of the potatoes, and they just were all rotten.
Oh, okay.
So
that can happen.
Yes, it doesn't pay to plant early.
Well, it definitely didn't pay this year, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's raining again today.
It sure is.
Out in St. Peter, anyway.
I think it's raining everywhere in Wisconsin today. So.
Yes.
I think so.
Thank you for your call.
Mm-hmm.
You're more than welcome, and have a wonderful day, all
Thanks.
of you.
Thanks, you too. We got to get our final break in here quickly, and then we will wrap it up. This show just flew by.
Yeah, down to the less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you got a question, call quick. So yeah, Rademann's open today till noon, Monday through Friday till 4:30, or you can stop on out this morning. I'll be out there this morning for a couple hours. So stop on out and say hi.
Get a selfie with Ron and get his autograph, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
And watch us on YouTube.
That's right.
That too.
KFIZ News Time, 8:57. Just under 3 minutes to go, and we do have a caller, so we're going to go right to the phones here so we can get this question in with Ron and Carol. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering about fertilizing fruits or vegetable gardens, an organic fertilizer or something to make at home, what I could put together.
Well, this would be a great time to do any fertilizing because we've had plenty of moisture and the cooler temperatures forecast. Sometimes you get into end of June here in July, and about the worst thing you can do is be fertilizing if we're going to get a lot of hot weather.
Right.
So you could, whether it's, a lawn or a garden or fruit trees or anything like that.
Yeah, that would be a vegetable garden.
But yeah, then, the best ones for something like that would be one that you'd mix up with water at this time of year, a water-soluble fertilizer. And we have several different, like Miracle Grow products and Fertilome products out at Rademann's available. And, you could do more of the, a higher, balanced always works out best if you're fertilizing a garden.
Okay.
Because then you've got the phosphorus, the potash, and the nitrogen, of course, too. So
all three then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking more organic, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, yeah, organic. What's the definition there? It's always a little tricky there.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to recommend some of the different organic products.
Yeah.
Some of them work better than others. Even like corn gluten, that'll, but it's, that isn't real. It's kind of out of season for that. That would be organic, and that would be a good fertilizer product.
Okay,
But,
well, thanks a lot, guys.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
So, watch us on YouTube. We'll be up and live here probably within a couple hours. You can watch today's show if you tuned in late, or otherwise, and we'll be up next week again too. So, again, Rademann's open till noon today, Monday through Friday till 4:30, or stop on out. I'll be out there later this morning, before noon, not afternoon.
Not afternoon.
All right. Rademann, Stone and Landscape Company, Landscape Smarts. News Talk 1450 KFIZ and 100.7 FM Fond du Lac, a Mountain Dog Media Station. The Jerry and Karen Schneider Polka Show is next on the Fizz.